All right, kids, in 1998, a doctoral student at the University of Massachusetts Amherst named Janice Jackson conducted a study with children around the ages of 5 and 6 years old. One group of kids spoke standard American English, the other spoke African American English. Each group was shown the same picture from Sesame Street featuring Elmo eating cookies, while Cookie Monster just watched. He probably wasn't feeling well and he needed a break anyways.
The amount of cookies I've watched the Cookie Monster waste with his bullshit chewing makes me sick.
Just wasteful. When Janice, that's Doctor if you're nasty, asked the group who is eating cookies, both the SAE and the AAE speakers pointed to Elmo. Yet, when she asked who be eating cookies, the AAE speakers pointed to Cookie Monster. The SAE speakers pointed to Elmo. That is, both the white and black children pointed out who was indeed eating cookies at that time, Elmo. However, the white children still indicated Elmo when they were asked who be eating cookies. Meanwhile, when the black children were asked who be eating cookies, they knew it was Cookie Monster because despite the fact that Cookie Monster wasn't eating cookies as he usually would be, he habitually does so. Today, this study is often referenced to show that there is an apparent grammatical distinction between standard American English and African American English, which the black kids also spoke in their homes. Gotta keep the receipts for those who don't buy it.
Women be shopping, baby. Women be shopping. Dang, you can't stop a woman from shopping, baby.
That's true, women do shop.
Take this broken down and reconstructed example from DeJaris Coles, who was also a doctoral student in the Communication Disorders Department at UMass Amherst and a member of their African American English research team. Elmo is a well-behaved baby monster who is usually kind, yet occasionally he encounters some special provocation in the form of Zoe presenting her pet Rocco and is then with the It would be incorrect to say that Elmo wants all the smoke with everybody. But when it comes to Rocco, Elmo be puffing.
Oh my goodness, Rocco's here.
No, he's not.
Yeah, Rocco's just right in front of you, Elmo. Yeah, that's so brilliant.
Are you kidding? Who brought Rocco?
Well, I thought you brought Rocco. Okay.
He inhales that smoke. Elmo's neck kickback and deep ancestral sigh, paired with lower tone and his waves brush to the back, yet furthermore confirms that Elmo is a black child. Reminder, Elmo's former puppeteer and actor was a black man from Baltimore. Now, Elmo is performed by Ryan Dillon, a white guy from Philadelphia, who sounds like this.
When I started doing Elmo, I had been with Sesame Street for a number of years, doing right-handing under the guidance of the performer before me who played Elmo. So I started to pick up the mannerisms of the character just being in the studio.
So I don't know if it's still accurate to say Elmo is black, but Elmo be black. Today we're going to talk about African American English, Ebonics, African American Vernacular English, and so on. When I brought up these topics last year, it was in an episode when I wondered, why can't black people say ask? To answer that question, real quick, maybe the most important thing to consider when talking about language is whether or not a large enough number of people understand what you're saying. With that said, ask and ax are both correct ways of saying that word. Ax, AKS, can be traced all the way back to the first Bible printed in English, along with works from Chaucer and Shakespeare. But when I mentioned this, people took it as me saying black folks say ax because they read Chaucer and Shakespeare. You know, instead of acknowledging that I said since then. It's only a 3-letter word, says the people who say ass instead of ask, leaving out the K sound, who I bet say mac and cheese instead of mac and cheese. 3-letter word, huh? Any issues one might have with how ask is pronounced can take it up with metathesis, a process where a word's sounds are interchanged. Think of realtor and nuclear. So if ax makes someone feel uncomfortable enough to want to tell people how to speak their own language, it's just linguistic prejudice. I mean, I just intentionally mispronounced uncomfortable, and they weren't about to say anything about it. So when I tell you that I'm not trying to educate non-black English speakers on how to speak our language, one that I'm not even that fluent in myself, I mean it. As you're about to see, I'm not going to be lectured by people who did this.
If it's not Peabody, What is it, Massachusetts? Well, world, Massachusetts decided that they're not going to say Peabody. They're going to say, sit down and wait for this, Peabody.
I should focus on the habitual be. However, there's so much context, so many details and nuance that I need to give you. But okay. Also known as the invariant be and the spectual be, habitual be refers to a common feature of African American English in which the uninflected verb form be, that is just plain be as opposed to forms of be like is or being, is used to indicate that something occurs frequently or habitually. Gaelic, an Irish or Celtic language, also features such a distinction, in addition to a number of West African languages. So there are not only rules when it comes to Black English, there are rules to the habitual be and its usage.
The most common usages that you will hear will follow these structures. Subject be adjective or subject be gerund, like I be tired or I be reading. And it's important to note that these are just fragments. You can't say them on their own devoid of context. You either have to provide the context or the context has to already be implied.
English will go on to talk about how the habitual be differs from standard American English. Included is noting how I usually read indicates a similar message as what I be reading does in Black English. English may be the dominant language in these United States, but it isn't the official language. And standard American English is just one form of English, albeit the most popular and most recognized, which doesn't make it formal or proper. There are dozens of English dialects here in America, and the major distinction between them is in the form of accents. Now, the part of America that I live in and the dialect used most by us is Midland American English, or North Midland in my case, which is widely considered the general American dialect. Also known as a way of talking that doesn't sound like any specific accent. Non-regional diction. Newscasters come from all over America to Columbus to study the way we speak. And by the way, how to speak Midwestern is an exercise in dialect diversity for those who inhabit these lakes and plains. How much more for the rest of these United States? With that said, notice how I'm not lording it over people that this country is trying to get like me. Well, there might be a reason for that.
I'm not from here, which is true. I'm from Connecticut. When I moved here, I noticed that everyone had an accent. They had some sort of an Ohio thing, and I couldn't quite figure out what it was. The longer I've been here, I've noticed that people coming up to me and saying, your accent's changed since you've been here. And I'm like, it has? And they're like, yeah. And I listen to my videos and I'd be like, oh yeah, I guess it has. I was doing research and I realized that my voice had lost the one thing that other people have that don't live in Ohio, and that's hope.
Oh,
Jesus
my God.
Christ.
Oh my God. It's hope.
According to Smithsonian, our history of accents and dialects is largely determined by migration patterns, cultural ties, geographic regions, and class differences, all of which shape speaking patterns, who settled where, when, and with who. For instance, pioneers and settlers mixed their way of speaking English, containing hints of French, Dutch, and Spanish, all of which contain sprinkles of Latin, with that of indigenous peoples. Those colonizers jacked West Africans. Our ancestors blended their linguistic stylings with what the oppressors forced on them. The Great Migration of Black people moving from the South to the North and West can explain why the rapper Common kind of has a Southern drawl, and Big Snoop has a country twang. And before I continue, hip-hop has added so much to the lexicon, minus the respect that comes with supposed good grammar and sound syntax, thanks, in part, to language ideologies. The study of language ideologies involves examining the social work language users do through their behaviors, activities, and social relations. With language ideologies, Black people, Latinos, women, the working class, and people currently living in the South bear the brunt of negative stereotypes. Whether America knows it or not, or acknowledges it or not, we instinctively gauge one's importance and intelligence based on how we speak. Meanwhile, British accents get positive stereotypes. They're known to be sophisticated, distinguished. Yet, do Brits question if we've watered down their language? Because white America sure does want Black people to speak the King's English.
Denzel's one of the best actors ever, but he's talking like he's in Training Day. No accent or nothing. What accent is he supposed to have? Where was the Roman Empire? They were talking like this in the Roman Empire. Like, come on. Are you going to make Denzel Washington do a goofy ass British accent to seem noble? Or are you going to let him be his noble ass self?
Have you ever wondered why we Americans don't have a British accent? Pretty much isolation and exposure to other language. I'm asking those with a white supremacist mindset who tried and try to make black people speak what they would claim as white people's language. Black people are guilty of this too, as a way to suppress black and brown cultures, which clearly influences verbiage used by the population at large. I almost forgot. Language is an ever-evolving mode of communication that America kind of pretends didn't change from its old world family. Martians didn't drop us off here with a book of terms and tell us these words and these alone are the words we can use. But illegal aliens from Europe did that to black, brown, and native peoples. Please don't tell me that we just can't make up words. Every single word is made up. Stuff is added to the dictionary all the time. Common English words potentially rooted in AAVE include banana, yam, okra, and gumbo. If you've said ain't or haven't, that's us too. African American Vernacular English has given us so much. And standard American English speakers don't even speak their own language good. I am going to transform to I'm going to. That turns into I'm gonna, and that tends to be pronounced as I'mna. Just like fixin' to turned into finna. If speech police were on my side, they would be cool with making I'mna a thing, but nah. They want to maintain a law that they themselves can't uphold. At least finna is in the dictionary.
But I just wanted to put out a PSA, for people who don't speak AAVE. First of all, it's not bad language. It's another language. Second of all, as an English major and a lover of etymology and semantics, if you were born in America, you're probably not speaking English properly anyway. Third of all, we still finna say finna. And what you finna do about it? Because speaking more than one language is a skill.
Oh, and the word cool wasn't always used how I just meant it. Like I said before, a black dude once told me that the name of my channel, along with the way I say it, is wrong. And I need to say it right. He's kind of telling on himself because he would have had to know that I mean we are going to be okay in order to make that critique. It may indeed be incorrect in standard American English, but that's just not what I be talking all the time. Colonialism makes too many people, including uppity black folk, think that black English is a watered down version of standard American English when it is proven to be its own branch. Black English may be its own language, rooted in Indo-European languages. We see you, Gaelic. Somehow, Black English is said to be illegitimate, but the bastardized offspring of West Germanic English is appropriate, except for when European Americans want to sound cool. Then it's the shizzle dizzle like Snoop. And suddenly, they understand the impact and legitimacy of code switching. Just like Common said, the presence is a gift. And I just want to be. Speaking of, clearly distinguishing habitual be and is, the present tense third person singular of be, those brilliant AAE speaking children demonstrated their ability to recognize invariant be and its functions, while also possessing knowledge of standard American English grammar. Are they bilingual? If language, accents, inflection even, is truly a measure of intelligence, then those black kids looking at a Sesame Street picture must have been smarter than the white kids. As Synergy stated, because those black children had grown up with a language whose verb forms differentiate habitual action from currently occurring action, they were able, even at the age of 5 or 6, to distinguish between the two. So don't let people tell you how to speak your language. Again, and I can't stress enough.
Because what do I look like in my glorious blackness? Correcting a non-black motherfucker on how to speak my motherfucking language.
We gonna be all right.
Alexa, do women be shopping?
Here's something I found on Wikipedia. Actually, shopping is considered as one of the main activities of women in the contemporary Western world.
Yeah, women be shopping.
Women be shopping, right? You fellas know what I'm talking about.
Hey, how about women beach volleyball? And wait, I just did B, women be. Look, women be shopping.